You know, that's how a quiet man's mean and nasty right there.
Yeah.
How do you guys like Robert Williams? He was 1 minute behind Thompson, but still right up there for most minutes among the centers.
I know. Amazingly, the hip's just getting better and better, you know?
It gets better with the more playing time. Unbelievable. You got to
stretch it out. The more he plays, the healthier he gets. Who saw that coming?
Well,
we gotta get an update.
Bobby
hey, Brad, we get an update on the Rob Williams hip, please.
Yeah. No, he's played 23 minutes tonight. That's right where I want him. So no issues. I mean, Thompson played a little more than probably we thought, but that's because Tice was a no-show. Tice didn't play, and Grant took some of his minutes. So I mean, Bobby's right in the sense where that center position, there's not a clear-cut guy coming out every night. It's going to be matchup based. It's going to be who's playing well that night or who's giving you the energy. But I think we've been over this a million times. Rob kind of gives you like the highest of those highs. So it's hard not to roll with him, every single night and sort of take the bad with the good there, because the good is really freaking good. And everybody else's good is just kind of just good.
We are going to miss him. We're going to miss the guy.
We're going to miss him.
We are, but you got him wrapped into the Shams, the Shams report, huh? You got him sent away already. John's already got the farewell graphic. He's got the Celtics career highlight reel.
Thanks for the memories. I've been working on the highlight reel.
He'll get the Jumbotron tribute.
I know we're going to get to it later, but we really are in a position now from an asset standpoint where the team is. They've built up a couple guys this year. That's what we want to see in the first half of the season.
One guy. And it was like pulling teeth to do it to happen.
And we've been begging for it all year.
Pritchard's for the future. I mean, I don't want to call him
I'm not saying he necessarily goes, but he's a guy who could.
Look,
he could, but
guys, let's
we said at the beginning of the year, right?
Listen, John came in. Word for word, began of the year, they have zero players who are valuable.
And what did I say? What's the exact thing I said? As soon as they start to show that they're good enough to be considered assets, no one's going to want to give up on them, right? When you begin the year, you had nothing. Now, Rob and Pritchard flash some, and everyone's like, you can't trade Pritchard, you can't trade Rob, and here we go again.
So let me get this
exactly what happened.
I didn't say you can't.
The two guys at the top of this show who have been waving the biggest Robert Williams flag in all the country right now are excited to ship him out.
I'm not. I'm telling you, it's a reality. I'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah.
It is crazy, huh?
But this is a good thing. There. This is a good thing. You want to be able to have this conversation, have this option, okay? Exactly what we said you wanted to happen is in the beginning stages of happening. Nobody's crowning Robert Williams the next, major piece of a blockbuster trade, and certainly not the case for Peyton Pritchard. It's nice to have those guys as some sort of asset. I think Robert Williams is obviously a bigger asset than Pritchard is right now, but sure, in a couple of years, who knows what Pritchard becomes? He needs more time to sort of develop. Robert Williams is at that point where he's intriguing, right? So teams are noticing him. He's getting some good airtime on the national broadcast. He's making some big plays. He's jumping through the roof. These are all things that other GMs notice and scouts notice, and now he's sort of on everybody's radar. They won't put it this way. They won't just immediately see Danny Ainge calling and not pick up. Maybe they'll actually pick up the phone knowing that they have somebody and not just 18 draft picks like Bobby wants them to trade. So
my first choice.
The fact that they have a guy that can at least maybe start the conversation and get it going is a good thing. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to trade him at the deadline, but what I've been saying is if you have Rob Williams for the rest of the year playing this way or close to it, you have a pretty valuable piece. And I'm willing to say at that point, a full season of Rob Williams playing like this, now you have a legitimate tradable asset, and you go into the offseason with the TPE and Robert Williams, and now you're in some sort of business here, okay? Which is what you didn't have really even like a month ago, because he wouldn't play Robert Williams.
Or keep Robert Williams and build around him.
Or keep Robert exactly. Both options that you didn't have like 2 months ago. So it's a good thing, but I'm not going to sit here and say the Celtics have all these assets, like they're rich and all these assets. They're still not there, but at least they can start a conversation with the team and not get laughed at.
Well, that's a far away from zero. Like I said,
It's not a far way. It's literally one.
It's
one to
it's
zero.
plus 1 from 0.
Yeah, it's 1.
I don't know how you guys don't consider Pritchard part of that group.
Could not be closer to 0, really.
What is old man Josue doing? He's nicking his friggin' iPad right now. What are you doing, buddy?
Sorry, I gotta adjust this camera. All right, now
yeah,
my laptop like closed right now.
So we'll get to all that trade talk, but Rob tonight, I don't know what more to say to you guys. This is as good as I've ever seen him, and he's had some real good ones lately. That Clippers one, I thought he was awesome. Pacers. A couple weeks ago against the Pelicans, he was obviously a game saver down the stretch in that one. But tonight, in that second quarter in particular, the lobs, the floor running, the blocks to like row 5, it was dynamic.
It's amazing.
He's one of the stories of the league right now. Ty Lue said it the other night. Like the whole league is noticing this.
Exactly. I mean, right. Like the last guy was Brad. I honestly believe we keep it going back in circles. I honestly believe there's probably 25, 26, 27 coaches that would be like, oh my God, I'm so happy I've got this guy, and we'd be playing him 30 minutes a game. It's only here that we keep having this conversation about like, should he play more than 19 minutes? I don't know. That seems risky, you know, like I really think like the rest of the league's looking at the Celtics like, what's wrong with these freaking guys? You know, like you see, they said it on the broadcast a ton. Bobby, you always talk about like, we're not paying attention to some of the stuff he does poorly, like on defense, late to rotate or some switches or, you know, the closeouts or whatever. But again, they were saying on the broadcast, I don't think we're giving enough credit to what he does to an opposing defense. I mean, how many times did they collapse every time he ran towards the back? They were so panicked and worried of Rob dunking on their heads all game that the defense just kept collapsing every time he went towards the basket, leaving shooters open and people everywhere.
And look at how much it helped Tatum.
Everything. Tatum, Pritchard hugely helped those guys get shots and have space. Unbelievable. Like all game long, that was just such a constant threat that Toronto was concerned with. You see a lot of teams really sweating it. You're game planning for Robert Williams when he's out there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when you look at it that way because they had to take Aaron Baines out immediately. Like, there's no way.
How bad does he look?
Whether we're talking about in transition or just pure athleticism, him being able to jump right over Aaron, it's just a terrible matchup. And again, you know, you talk about the Raptors, a team with a bunch of players that can shoot from, you know, deep from 3 and get it going. These guys, they can get going in fast break opportunities as well. And Robert knows that. So I thought he played well. I mean, look, we're getting closer and closer. You know, Jimmy's going to get that average up. You're gonna see it where you want it, Jimmy. Because, you know, if Stevens can keep this thing going,
it's coming.
I mean,
be patient.
He's gonna clock in 20 or at least really close to 20 minutes a night.
So it is interesting now because this is where you're stuck, right? And again, we'll get into the trade. We'll get into the trade stuff eventually. I don't want to leap into it now because we'll spend the rest of the night on it. And Bobby and I had a little show earlier, and I know some of you guys were on there. But we're going to circle back to that for sure. But this becomes a legit dilemma because there's one of two things. Rob is going to always be a tantalizing talent, and will probably be at this. But he might stay at this level and not much beyond it, and that's just who he could be, maybe forever. Or you're just scratching the surface of someone who could be a special player, and you're going to have to make a determination on it pretty quickly. And, you know, like, you know how reluctant Danny was to send some guys off. I don't believe they view Rob in this light, so I do think they'll include him in a package. I think Ainge wants another star in here after having had so many walk over the years. But this is one of those situations where you're like, wait a second, are you about to give up on somebody who's just about to reach that next level and could be a legit star? I mean, we talk about the whiffs in the draft. You know, like if you found somebody who's legitimately a cornerstone piece in a low 20s sort of spot, like that's where the Celtics have been missing and lacking in the last 10, 15 years is they haven't hit any of those others there to help supplement their higher end talent and get cheaper guys who can contribute. And right now you might have one and then you're going to let him walk out the door, not walk out the door, but
well,
as soon as he starts playing well, you pack him up and ship him out. And I think people are going to – I guarantee if we put it out there or put a poll, it'll be a pretty dead split on whether or not you want to include him in a package, right?
Of course it would, because that's what Celtics fans do is that they
always do.
They hang on tight to their guys, which is fine. I mean, that's probably what a lot of fans do, right? You're partial to your guys, so that makes sense. But think about it like this, John. They're not giving up on on Robert Williams. They're building him up, and they are then trading him away, because if they don't, then you're giving up on essentially Gordon Hayward, right? You're getting nothing for him essentially, because you probably won't be able to get rid of that TPE. Maybe you can toss a pick in.
It depends
for somebody.
What.
Right, that's what I mean. Depends for what. So you might really be able to get somebody really good who's available in the offseason if they're not available at the deadline, if Robert Williams is included in it, because of how well he's playing. Now, if you think he's going to tail off, then you try to trade him now while his stock has never been higher. But I don't think that's the case. I think that what Robert Williams does well, he'll continue to do well. He's not just like a flash in the pan point guard, who's just on a tear right now. Like, the things that he's doing well, you have to see him continuing to sort of go on that trajectory for a bit here. So that's why I think the longer they hold on to him, the more he's worth. Now, they might also say, we want to keep this guy. We'll figure out another way to bring in talent, and we want to build around Rob. We want him to start at center next year and all this stuff. But then, this is year 3, unfortunately. It would have been great if we saw this Rob in the rookie season Rob, and then
takes longer with bigs.
You really got something here in the 3rd year. It did take longer. I know he had injuries, and obviously Brad saw a million things wrong with playing him. So here we finally are. So great to see, and just kind of go from there. I'm not saying trade Rob right now. You have to trade him. I'm just saying essentially that the fact that you have him available and he's growing in value can only mean good things going forward, in terms of if they want to think about that.
So I'll say this: I don't think there's a question about whether he's going to improve or continue to grow off this. I think that's evident. He's going to get better and better with positioning and all these different minor things that need to be cleaned up on his end. If those are worked on, he's going to be a dynamic force in this league, because we see what he brings to the table already. It's exactly what you want from a center in today's game, particularly with the personnel that the Celtics have around him.
You like to see more refined offensive game. Like I said, he doesn't really have any moves down low, even for like a baby hook or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't have any of that stuff yet. Like, we make fun of Thompson, but Thompson, at least, he's got that little thing where he'll, use his body a little bit and get off a little hook. You'd like to see Rob develop. We're not talking Kevin McHale stuff, but at least be able to catch.
Yeah, the old man
catch and either square or go or do something. And I actually like his stroke from 10, 12 feet there. He's just not – he doesn't –
He might be able to hit threes one day. I was joking about that a little bit earlier.
When he catches, his first instinct is to give it away. I don't think – I think if he was a little bit more aggressive within 12 – in that 12, 14 feet range, I think he could knock those down. He just hasn't yet.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not opposed to seeing the Celtics trade.
But you're right, Bobby. He could do threes. Yeah. Sorry.
It all depends on. No, it's all good. It all depends on the deal, obviously. But I just don't think you sell this stock right now. It hasn't peaked yet. I mean, it hasn't. Right. You have to. Again, we talked about this the last couple of episodes. I mean, regardless of how you feel about the Celtics' chances of going to the NBA Finals, but one deep playoff run is enough exposure to put this guy on a platform for everyone to see. I mean, they're already seeing it right now. I mean, look at the way they were talking about him on national media. Last game with the Clippers in town. I mean, I think all of that is relevant, and guys, or I should say national media is keeping a close eye on the Celtics because they're a 500 team, or at least they were, and they're trying to climb out of that, possibility of falling back into that hole. So, yeah, I think the national media is certainly watching the Celtics, and Robert Williams has a lot to do with that.
But here's the thing. We keep talking about, and we're going to talk about later, but deadline deals and this and that, the other thing. You need to trade somebody to get somebody. You can't just think that you're going to get away with trading picks. So what's it going to be?
Unless you trade 5 or 6.
Which never happens, and we're not going to get into that right now.
You're the only one using that little disclaimer. No.
We're not going to get into that right now because we'll just go off the rails. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Go ahead, Jimmy. I apologize.
No, not you. It's not
you.
Josue
apologizes for Bobby.
It's Jimmy. Somebody else. That's the thing. Is
I can't wait for Shams.
They need
Celtics
to get better.
Are trading 5 picks for so and so.
They need to get better immediately. At the deadline, they have a good enough team where they can compete. And blah blah blah. It's fine. Then you have to get rid of somebody on this team that's contributing, because if you're the Magic, you're looking at the Celtics roster saying, okay, what you want, Vucevic? What can you give us? And you're going to say no to every single guy that they ask for and say, we'll give you Semi and Teague, and you can have Neesmith. It's not how it works.
Yeah, it's really hard because there are ideal ways you want to line up the roster around a guy like Vucevic, and I think Rob would be so crucial to that. I don't love the idea of like Vucevic, Thompson, Tice, that whole logjam still being there. I would dream of Rob and Vucevic alone, but you're right. You do have to give something up to entice them. And right now, Rob is what everybody's going to be asking for. So you'll be hard-pressed. I'm not giving him up for Barnes. I'm not giving him up for some of these lesser guys that we've talked about. When it comes to Vucevic, though, it feels like that might just be the deal breaker because Orlando, they don't necessarily have to deal him. But Robert would be a guy who gets that moving a little bit. The key that we have to think about is health. If they can get off health concerns that they have internally right now and sell high on that, that's almost a no-brainer. Like, they know better than anyone the health concerns here, and then ultimately the other team has to sign off on that. So that could be what we're
Danny on that health front. So they're going to do their due diligence there too.
I mean, so the only reason he's here is because of health.
Hold on, real quick. I don't want John to take it down.
Oh,
if Gregory's comment here was like a little more accurate, this could be a realistic conversation. But Rob's stock hasn't peaked because it hasn't. We've been saying it all long.
Rob stunk.
Well, the reason, Josue, it might have peaked is because right now you're looking at him and envisioning what it could be if he doesn't get better or stays about this level for another year. You'll start thinking, oh, this is who he is. So the reason it might be at its highest isn't because he's not going to necessarily play better. It's that in some teams' eyes right now, they might be thinking that they're getting a star.
I just feel like if this was like a month ago, he'd have a shot to really peak. You know what I mean? Like really entice potential suitors into thinking, you know what? I'll send our second or third best guy for a development like this. You know, he's only a year or so away from being who he's supposed to be. Like that's the kind of sell the Celtics should be in a position to do with Rob right now. But they're not in that position. I don't think a lot of teams are thinking, oh, he's just about to peak. They're like, all right, you got our interest, but we're not quite sure. This could be it, or there could be another notch to Rob Williams' game.
This is why he's Rob Stonk, because you're a trader on the market right now. You're like, it's about to be the stock market's about to
great comparison.
Close for the night. You're like, what's going to happen to this stock after hours? Is it going to the moon?
Money.
Is it going to the moon or is it tanking? Are we buying or are we selling? And you don't know which way to go with it.
Yeah,
you gotta have it. Last week it was $5. Now it's at $100. But is it going to go back to 10 or is it going to go to 200?
Right.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of Rob Stonk.
You would ultimately be trading the Stonk for something more reliable. Like Vucevic, for example, ultra reliability right now. You just know what you're getting night in and night out.
Pays a dividend. It's like a nice, there's a good history there.
But there's no upside left, And then Rob, it's like, could this guy become the best center in the league? That's what people are thinking about right now.
I mean, look, we had
that seems extreme.
Well, I mean, look, we were talking about it. We had Doris Burke on, with Sherrod, and they did a game recently, and it was the same exact thing. She's talking about? I mean, the quotes were like, every single game I do, I watch somebody. I keep my eye on someone. She's like, I cannot take my eyes off Rob Williams. He's so captivating.
Bob was
literally everything he does. All on the court, you can't not watch him because he's so dynamic and so electric, and you feel like he's just scratching the surface, and that was just unsolicited. Everyone's talking about it. Like, this guy's unreal,
and he's unmatched too. Someone threw out who was like this in Celtics history, and there's evidently no one. Like, no one has ever played this kind of style in Celtics history.
Evan Valenti threw out a tweet today. Who's been as good at catching lobs in Celtics history? And
I think that was it. Yeah,
was Andrew DeClercq. It's like there is nobody even close.
But he is putting together this resume that his overarching impact on the game, whether it is the lobs, and that's obviously a big part of it, but also the shot blocking, the versatility, the size, the rebounding now that has gone through the roof. To see a guy, and I threw the stat at you guys earlier, when he plays 20-plus minutes, the Celtics are plus 51. Like, are you kidding me? This isn't a guy who plays 2 minutes, even though it feels like it to you guys sometimes. He plays a medium amount of minutes. And to be plus 51 when your minutes tick up, and that means you're going against more starters, you're going against bigger, more consequential minutes in games. That's just unheard of. So, we're creeping in the territory.
It almost sounds like you're lobbying for playing Rob Williams more minutes. I can't tell.
Weird.
No, I've never disagreed with the potential. I'm just terrified about the health. And that's what everybody's been worried about since day one with him.
Everybody, or like you and Brad?
Why'd he go 27th then? I mean, that's my big question.
I don't know. Why did
get the green light?
Put it this way:
any player go 27
at his best, without any concerns about either his overall game, his maturity level, and/or his hip. At the highest in that year that he was rated was 14, 15, 16. So the Celtics.
No, he was a top 10 prospect after his freshman year.
Beginning the year, but at the end of that year, after watching him play, and again, he was still defensive player of the conference. You know, like he did things that year. I mean, he was slotted in the teens. So when he fell into the 20s, everyone was like, this feels like a steal. You know, you always want to get those guys that fall because obviously their pedigree and their potential is seemingly higher. It doesn't feel like some bottom feeding pick. But I mean, there wasn't that. I mean, he was going there somewhere in that first round. I just think
there may have been some maturity issues or some.
He was a project still. Yeah.
It was a mix.
Very raw, very, very raw. Wasn't ready for the NBA. I think there was maybe some like maturity issues. Obviously, the guy didn't even show up to his own freaking press conference and like first.
It was a mix of that, but it was also a medical. I mean, shortly after it came out, he's got blood flow issues in his legs. You know, that was something that was talked about a lot in the aftermath.
Imagine if he didn't, how high he could jump.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's always going to be lurking.
Man, hips don't lie. Wise woman once said.
Mm-hmm.
Shakira.
No one's doubting the potential here. That's always been evident. It's just, are you going to stick with some of the inconsistency and some of the health concerns here? They're real. They're real.
Maybe if we stop talking about them, they'll go away, Bobby. We're trying to get some asset return here.
Yeah. So Robert, and again, we'll circle back to the trades. Just